Buenos días, buenos días, buenos días. Da, 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 da. Every day that we have where we get up in our right mind is a good day. And we give God thanks for all his blessings. You know, I've always believed that being grateful is something to do. It's a good habit to get into when you get up in the morning, when you open your eyes, even before you start. You get up, you just look up and you say, thank you, God, for waking me up. And then you start thinking what I did yesterday, what I have to do today, and your mind is working. Thank you, because, as you get older, I tell people, when I talk to my patients, they say, I don't worry about getting old. I worry about losing this up here, where you can't function, you can't remember your family members. That's an awful thing to happen to you. So I think most of us in this age, we're worried about that, the dementia that affects you and you can't function. Today, so we give God thanks, and I do that even when I do the exercises with the ladies. We say thanks, giving thanks to God, to the universe, because not everybody is as lucky, to wake up and, not having pain or things that kind of keep you from enjoying life. So get in the habit of doing that. Let me tell you, they told you it takes 3 weeks to develop a habit. It's not hyperbole, it is true. Today we're gonna go really fast. So yesterday, Saturday, I just didn't do anything. That was a day for me to recoup. I was a bit sore. Every time I have a party and I'm on my feet for a long time, so it's like you need to veg out. And when I did, when I did the Thanksgiving, I needed more than 1 day to recuperate. But yesterday I did that. I didn't even touch anything in the sink. I didn't clean. And then yesterday, last night around 8 o'clock, I was like, yep, I feel up to it. So did everything, cleaned everything, mopped the floors, and woke up to a clean house. So this is nice. Okay, so today we're gonna go really easy. It's also the way I always do it. What do I have in the house and what can I do? So we are going to poach our beautiful tuna. I took it out last night, so it's ready. I'm gonna poach the whole thing because then I can eat the rest of it tomorrow or the next day. And it was like, what do I do with it? I already have some bread here that I've been eating, so can't have any carbs anymore. No rice and peas, nothing like that. I do have some potatoes. I was thinking maybe I'll shred some or I'll slice them real thin and kind of make some type of a scallop potatoes. But I said I have to put a little bit of cream in it, so let's just, and that's called starch. But I have bought this two slices of squash, and you guys know I love squash. And I watched someone on YouTube make cook it differently than the way I do it. I mash it, I dice it, but this one, I already have the oven on. We're going to slice the squash really thin, and then we're going to toss it in the herb oil, and then we're going to roast it. So it's going to be nice and curvy. So it's going to be a nice base for the poached tuna. And I do have some arugula, which I love arugula. I'll take arugula over lettuce. I don't like lettuce. I usually would eat like spinach. I'll mix that instead of lettuce. Lettuce to me just it's like a wasted food. That's just all right. And then I still have some leftover tomatoes. We're gonna also roast these in the herb oil. So that's good. Buenos dias, abuela. And Merida. Oh, you are in Merida. Hopefully you're not too hot. My son is in Florida. He said it's 25 degrees. Aye. This is a no bueno kind of thing. Okay, I'm gonna quickly give these a rinse. And I'm gonna slice all of it because I love squash that much. And I like the skin. I don't know why. I do. Yes. I do. How is everybody doing? How is your weekend? So, we're gonna toss in here, and then we lay them in here. So I'm like, I think that's it. You always learn from other people. It's a nice change. Ooh, that's a little too big. But I am not going to risk cutting myself. So however we get it, that's what we're gonna do. Look at that. Yes. Be careful. Make sure you don't hurt yourself. And I'll be sure I don't hurt myself. Because I like the skin, the taste of the skin of the squash. I love the skin. So that's a different way of cooking squash. And just because I cook doesn't mean I can't learn from somebody else. We all learn from each other, right? Never think that you know it all. Somebody can always teach you something. Look how pretty. Wow. Looks amazing. I love the color. And remember, I always say you eat with your eyes. So whatever you're cooking, make sure it looks appealing. So people will want to eat your food. All right. But you know what? I'm cooking all of it just because I like squash that much. So I guess you could use this with any kind of squash. Even if they were kind of round, that would be good too. Good morning from another expat, in this case living in Mexico. Hola, que bueno. I love Mexico. It was cold, 54 degrees. Where are you, Abuela? Yes, 25 degrees for Florida. That's below freezing. That's just not good. 1 year, we had a freeze, a low temperature like that in Florida. And then we woke up, the pipes had frozen and we had water everywhere. And then it froze and then they burst. So the whole house was flooded. It was not a pretty sight. So you had to call a plumber to come replace the pipe. And then, that was an insurance claim. And that caused Allstate to just drop us the next time. They're like, oh, you had a claim, therefore. So you're paying insurance, you know how it is. But they don't want you to use the insurance ever. So you're supposed to just pay. This is my oil. You're supposed to just pay them all the time. But they don't want to. Okay. So now we're just going to toss. And so now you see another way for you to cook squash, right? And if you're one of those people, you don't want to see any oil in your food, just bake, toast it dry. But I just don't happen to be one of those folks. I think I was telling someone yesterday, this little lady, well, I don't know if she's telling the truth or not. Hola. Hola, Andrea. ¿Cómo estás? Are you in Mérida too? 74 degrees in Mérida? Whoa. Isn't that the place that's always hot? I thought Mérida was always 100 degrees. Am I wrong? I don't know. With a Cuban background, appreciate your cooking. Oh, gracias. Gracias, Penelope. Well, I love your cooking as well. And I'm Caribbean, so we're all kind of close in our cooking, right? All right. Now, you know we eat a lot of squash, if you're Caribbean, and we put them in soups. But I think this is a nice alternative to enjoying it. And then before I finish it, I'll just sprinkle a little bit of sea salt, and it's gonna be perfecto. See? And then this, I can just snack on them, or you can put them on the side of chicken or whatever if you're into meat. Right? You know, I'm waiting for them to say, oh, squash got so many properties and vitamins and antioxidants. Well, we know that. This is God's food. All right? Okay. So we're going to put that in here. Now I'm going to get the tomatoes ready because I'm going to roast the tomatoes. We still have a little bit of that oil. So what you do with the tomatoes, we used to do that when I worked for Disney. We would do Sunday brunch, and we would make trays and trays of Roma tomatoes. We cut in half, season, put it in the oven, and that was a nice side for whatever they were serving that day. All right. I'm gonna cook all these tomatoes. They've been here forever. Little lady's mommy said she lived to be 108, and she said, I'm going to tell you 7 things that I eat that have caused me to still be here. And she was in her right mind. She looked absolutely amazing if she was really 108. She said that don't listen to people telling you coffee is bad. You know, coffee is like, it's good and it's bad. It's good, it's bad. Don't forget all those folks. I'm having coffee. The only thing is that she says she has black coffee, and I can't. I have tried. I have to put a little brown sugar and a little bit of evaporated milk. Hey, I'm Caribbean. That's how I was raised. So because I use a little bit of salt, not salt, sugar, so I don't drink it every day. Because I don't feel I need to put sugar in my body every day. But maybe 3 times a week. Especially some mornings I wake up and I'm like dragging a little bit. And listen, 1 cup of coffee perks me right up. I don't know about you, but I get days like that. You see this little thing? Is to core the tomatoes, to take this part out. You can find those at Walmart. Yes, my God, I used to prep so much. I kind of love that experience I had at Disney because I learned to make ranch dressing, like regular Italian. We made honey mustard dressing and big old containers and all the recipes. The chef had all the recipes. It was amazing. I love that. But right now, a dream of mine before I die is to do an Asian tour. So I'm just going to put the tomatoes face down and let them roast like that. And I'm going to do all of them because I have had these tomatoes in the fridge for a long time. And I need to use them. So it's a different way. Instead of using them in salad, we're just going to use them like this. And they're going to be nice when I'm ready to put the tuna. It's going to be perfecto. Yes, look at that. It just fit perfectly. You see what I'm saying? Look at that. Excellent. So I'm going to leave it like that and just put a little salt on top. And the salt is going to take a lot of the moisture off the tomatoes, which is gonna make it good. Remember, salt in itself is not bad for you. Your body needs salt. You need salt, water, that's sodium. If you go too low on it because you're taking water pills, for your blood pressure, and you're peeing a lot, you're losing sodium and potassium. So everything in balance, ladies. Don't overdo it. That's why I tell you, don't buy prepackaged food, because that's where the sodium is hidden that you don't see. Canned soup, packaged pretzels, and potato chips and stuff like that. No bueno. All right. Now we're going to poach the tuna. I'm going to go ahead and put that in because the tuna is not going to take long. It's fish. You don't ever want to overcook fish. That would be sacrilegious. Don't do that. Just like I say, don't overcook your steak. I'm not a meat eater. But when you go in a restaurant and you say you want it well done, that is a cardinal sin. Because you're not supposed to say that to a chef. They get so upset. For beef to be nice, it got to be at the right temperature and not overcooked. Otherwise, it gets tough. All right. So vamos. I think this is. I didn't weigh the tuna. I just saw it and I said, "Give me this much," and then that's what they did, and then they weighed it. I don't remember how much it weighed, but. Just gonna rinse it. Beautiful piece of fish. Alright. So when you are poaching, you have to make sure you cover the fish with the oil. That's the key for poaching. You're not saute, you're not doing any of that. So you got to make sure you have enough oil. Okay? So, right here, I'm going to use this little pan. I don't want to use something bigger because then I'm going to have to use more oil. And of course, after I finish with the oil, I get to save it and then I use it again because it's flavored. All right, I think. Oh, you're welcome. Yes, please watch the podcast, you guys. I think the internet went out for a little bit. My apologies. Buen dias. So I kept cutting the tuna. So we're gonna get them just like about 1/2 inch thick. All right, so I'm gonna put that in. That's one. Maybe I'm not gonna do all of them. That's 2. And that's 3. Oh, this one's a little thicker. 4. And then I'm going to put these to the side. I might find another dish to make with this. So I'm saving this. Yes, ladies, the podcast is every morning at 6 a.m. It's to wake you up. Just have you think a little bit. Let me just wash this board, okay? Please share it with your friends and tell them to listen. As I said, we are all in this together. The podcasts are designed, or it is designed to encourage one another as we weather the storm that we are going through. Not that we've ever not been going through storms. It seems to be like the story of our lives. We never get a break, do I? Hola, you're here with your beau, Greta. ¿Cómo estás, mi amor? Are you still cold? All right, so I am going to start building my my seasoning. Remember, you're gonna have to cover, but I'm not gonna use all my olive oil with this. Olive oil is expensive, you know that, right? I think this was like almost $20. Now I have some sunflower oil. It's not from the seeds. You gotta make sure it's not from the seeds, okay? The one from the seed is usually cheaper. So I'm gonna put enough oil here to cover this, all right? Woo. So I'm gonna have lots of oil left. All right, I'm gonna move one piece. Everything has to be covered in the oil. Eso. Okay? Now, you season, but most of the thing you put in there are going to be herbs. But I'm definitely going to put salt, some salt. You don't want it too salty, but you want salt. Sea salt. And I'm not going to put the rest of all my spices that I usually put, but it's going to be mostly herbs. All right? And knowing me, I want a little heat. So let's start with romero, rosemary. And this one, I'm not going to chop, right? Because I don't want to have to fish it out at the end. So I'm going to put the twigs of it in there. Yes. And thyme. It's time to get some more thyme. Fresh thyme. Yes. Woo. I have some leftover tarragon. Freezing. Aww. I'm sorry, Greta. I was telling them even my son is freezing in Florida, so I know you're freezing. What's happening? It's like they call it Arctic blast. Alright, so we put some of that tarragon. I'm going to throw the rest of it away. I think it served its purpose. I've had this for a while now. Alright, so now we're going to do, for me, this is a jalapeno. I'm going to put a little bit. And because I want a little heat, I'm not going to take the seeds out. Ooh, where are you going? Yeah. I don't know where I read that. They said if you're in a restaurant and something falls on the ground, you have so many seconds to pick it up and it's okay and use it. What is your take on regular salt versus sea salt? Well, I don't know about sea salt. Sea salt is not as salty as, you know, regular salt that they've kind of worked on and make it saltier. That's why it's easier for you to use sea salt because it's not so salty. But the iodized, you need the iodine. Iodine is good for your thyroid and stuff. So it's always good to get iodized salt. Unless you have thyroid issues, then check with your doctor whether you should have it. But iodine is something we all need in our system. Helps our thyroid. So I always buy iodized salt. Always. Alright, so now we're going to put some crushed, you know, garlic is your friend. You crush it so that it can release all its goodness. Oh, I'm going to put a lot more than that. This is not enough for me. If I ever look in my fridge and I don't have garlic, I panic. Because this is something I use all the time. Except in white rice. Everything else gets garlicky. Alright, I think this is enough. Now when you're making the poached oil, you don't need to put, this is a one-time. Now, the other thing I want to put in here, let's see. Yeah, I don't need to use my, I have some chili peppers. And I'm just going to throw a couple of chilies just whole. Okay? So now get the oil. You bring it to a slow boil and then you turn it way down. That's why poaching means slow cooking. Fresh garlic, always. You know, I was telling someone, my mom used to make tea out of the leaves, the shell. I don't remember what it was used for, but she used to. Yes. All right. So this week, I need to load up on my herbs. I need fresh thyme and rosemary. You know, I'm going to throw like one Scotch bonnet pepper. Remember, I put it in there for the skin, for the taste, not for the heat. So, now I had made an online order and bought like, I mean it was a pound, a bag of this Scotch bonnet peppers, and they have lasted really good. So I have some lime. We can squeeze a little bit at the end when we're ready to serve it. But, all right. So, pretty much, I'm looking at my squash is looking good. So we're not going to be here long. So let's chat for iodine salt or what? What do you mean or what? Iodine is a compound that you need in your body. Your thyroid needs it. Okay? There's a test we used to do when people came in with goiters, and when they have an enlarged thyroid, and sometimes they have to go and take it out. Then you have to take extra thyroid pills. And that was fast. You know, as you go to menopause, because all your estrogen and stuff start the reaction up here, and when you go to menopause, your estrogen levels go down, right? And sometimes your thyroid, the gland that's in there, you know, when you go to the doctor and they go behind you and then they say swallow, they're trying to see if your thyroid is enlarged, right? And if it's enlarged, they're going to have to do an ultrasound and check it to make sure, because there is such a thing as thyroid cancer, right? So when you go to menopause, your thyroid could be hypoactive, meaning it's not working to its full capacity. And that could be a reason some of us don't lose weight and we gain weight. You know, everything happens to us. Everything happens to us, which is just not fun. It's just not fair, is it? But, so for that reason, I always buy iodized salt. And I've been fine. Alright. So I think today I'm going to have, well, not today. When I finish here, I'm going to go. There is a place called La Chorrera. I think it's about an hour from here. I'll go take a bus. They're having buenas. They're having a feria. A feria means like a festival. Every little town in Panama has their own little festival, you know, when they have all their little artisanal things to sell, you know, bracelets and hats and other things. They have music and they have things for the kids. I tell you, Panamanians find a reason to celebrate. so, so I'm going to check it out instead of sitting here. I already went out for my walk today, so I can go walk some more and then come back later. No problema. So that's my goal, what I'm going to do today. And then start off tomorrow. I have to record more podcasts today because I do like 7 days at a time. The podcast is to make you think. I call it an intersection of aging, wellness, and wisdom. Hoping that as we get older, we become wiser. We commit to wellness, meaning taking care of ourselves. Not that we don't age, but we want to age well with less problems like inflammation related stuff, you know, pain, headache, depression, you know, just not enjoying the season of life. And we want to be able to enjoy this season. The name of the podcast is just still on single women retiring abroad. It's just, I think I call it the SWRA podcast. SWRA podcast. Good morning, Andrea. Getting out and visiting community in Panama. I do a lot of that. 2 years ago, I took 3 weeks and I traveled all around the country. And I stopped in different little towns. I spent a day or two, walked around, ate the food, took pictures. So that was my Panama tour. And it was also a way for me to check out the other neighborhoods, the other communities, because you know some people don't want to stay here. They want to stay. They're going to Poached, or they want to go to Nueva Gorgona or Coronado, places like that. So I went, and like I said, I saw, I experienced the different communities, and I came back and I said, I'm staying right here, right? That was my decision, and because it was an informed decision, I did go out and check out the other communities. But sometimes you just walk around, you watch people, see how they look at you, and again, for me, it's all about that feeling. How do I feel about that place? How do I feel when I'm there? That's important to me. I don't know about you. That's why sometimes, you know, as busy as it gets here, it gets noisy sometimes, but I'm walking around, or I'm at the gym, and then I'm looking the world go by, and I'm like, I still like it here. You know what I mean? So you have to constantly reassess. So I am bringing the heat down, okay? It's starting to poach, so I'm turning the heat down. It's gonna be a slow cook, right? I don't wanna see all that pink in there for me. But you know, you can have seared tuna also, you know, when you just maybe put a coating and then you just cook it really, and then you slice it and it's pink inside. I don't like anything pink, but poaching means really slow cooking. And I'm gonna make sure there's enough salt in here. Needs a little bit more salt, but the flavors are there, that's for sure. And then this oil is going to be gold. After that, whenever I have to cook something, I can use this oil because it is going to be so flavorful. Look at that color, you see? And I didn't put any turmeric in it. So it looks like it's almost done because you don't want the fish to be overcooked. You see that? All right. So we'll definitely sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on our fish and a little bit of acid. But anyway, that's what I did when I 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago, when I was visiting. This is what I want to do when I move to Panama. Visit before I completely settle down. I love the city too. Yeah, but some people are not city people. You know, they want, what be in the country, have animals, and they have that. I went to Coclé. Coclé is one of the provinces of Panama. Panama has 10 provinces. And Panama, where I am, is one of the provinces. And you have Colón, you have Bocas del Toro, you have Chiriquí, you have Herrera, you have Los Santos, you have Veraguas, Darien. I don't know if I missed any, right? It's 10 provinces. Like we would say 10 states in the U.S., but it's 10. And each one of them has their own little flavor, right? And then they have district, and then they have cities. So Coclé, district of Penenome, I love Penenome. When you're traveling, if you're traveling from here to David, when you pass, good morning, Julie. When you pass Penenome, you'll see all the windmills, they use for energy. So that's Penenome. So I took a hike with a native guide. So it was advertised as a tour. So I booked it. Please hit the like buttons, guys. And when I had to take a bus to take me up the mountain to where I was supposed to meet the party. And I got there, and I'm sitting there, I love to sit around watching people go by. It was like way in the mountain, right? And then there was like a little convenience store. I said, I bet you it's gonna be some Chinese who owns it. And sure enough, it was a Chinese family. And then I'm standing there, I see this guy pull up in that beat up truck. The glass was cracked and everything, and this indigenous guy looked at me, I looked at him, and he said, Maggie? I'm like, yeah. And then he said, you want to go on a tour? I said, yeah. I'm like, where's everybody else? He said, no, it's just you. It was just me and him. So I got in the truck, and he drove a little bit, and then he pulled, and then he stopped, and he said, we need to get out. Spanish. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, where are we going? He said, well, you want to go up there, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be in the woods with this one guy, just me. Don't do it. I don't. But I went with him. So I had a backpack, I had my phone. I want to take pictures, right? And then, so I go into the mountain. It's just beautiful. I saw cascades, and he's telling me that the Japanese built this little bridge that they were, to go over. And then he said the water there is so fresh, you don't have to treat it. I tried some. Listen, it was beautiful. And it was, when you get to the cascade, you could have taken your clothes off. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. So sometimes he had to hold my hand, because we would be going, and the edge would be so sharp. I'd be afraid I'd be falling off. So he'd hold my hand. And then we got to one spot, and I think we were like hiking for an hour and a half, right? So we got to a place, and I saw a little house, unfinished. He said, do you want to use the bathroom? And I'm like, I said, how old are you? He said 60, I think he said 64 or something. Well, we're about the same age. And I said, if he tries anything, I think I can take him. So I'm like, yes, I wanted to use the bathroom, but I was scared. I was like, here I am in the woods with this one guy. Maggie. It's just not a smart thing to do. All right, guys, so I'm going to turn the heat off and let the fish sit in this oil and marinate and get all the flavors in the meat. Ooh, yes, I think my everything is done at the same time. So I'm going to flip my My squash. Flippin'. Ooh, yes. But yeah, I was wondering, do I go into that bathroom? He said, oh, that's my family, because the whole where we were going, it's like indigenous land. And he said, the fields, the terreno, they call it, belong to his family. And then I was like, are you ever wanting to sell some of it? Because that place, it was fresh. We were in the mountain. There was a mist. And then he said, oh, it's always fresh here. It rains almost every day, so everything is green. So that's what we did. All right, let's see. I don't want the tomatoes to be overcooked. So we're going to take those tomatoes out. Look how pretty they are. But I took a chance. Hola, Donna. I went to the bathroom and I was watching. Let me tell you, I was vigilant, but oh my God. After a while, after I was finished, I was like, Maggie, that wasn't very smart. I mean, I had paid for my tour. What was I going to do? You wasn't going to give me a refund, so. So we went all the way up to the mountain. I took beautiful pictures, and on the way up the mountain, there was like a little community of people who lived there. And I asked him, I said, would you ever consider selling? I'm like, sell me a plot. I'll build a little house that would be like a vacation spot. But then you think, this is his community. You would be sitting there like an eye by yourself. No bueno. Not a good decision. Even though I love the area, but I'm always playing devil's advocate, and whatever decision you want to make, you got to think of the pros and cons. And is it the right decision for you right now? Right now. And that's why I tell people, you want to go in the woods and you love to be, but you by yourself. There are no buildings, there are no security people, and you're going to be in a small, pretty house. You could be on top of the mountain looking and then just enjoying fresh air. But when you go to sleep or you leave your house, you by yourself. That's the danger for me, for people our ages. And even the other day, I was telling the ladies yesterday, even the other day, not too long ago, there was a home invasion in those areas in Chiriquí, where somebody, got into the house and the owner started to fight back and he got shot. All right, and he died. And his companion, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, was hurt. So don't put yourself in a position to be a target, right? You're a foreigner, especially if because they're watching you. They're watching you. And these people work in packs, right? They have their friends, they have gangs. And sometimes they are under pressure to bring money or whatever. You know how it is with gang initiation. You have to commit so many crimes for you to be accepted or whatever. And I remember going to Chiriquí, going to Cerro Punta. Cerro means mountain, right? Punto is a point, so I don't know what punta means. I thought it was not a good word. But anyway, Cerro Punta is at the foothill of Volcan Baru, which is the dormant volcano they have in that area. But let me tell you, oh my God, it's God's country. The greenery, the majesty, and the mist, in the morning, it's cool. It's just absolutely stunning. And I remember going there, they had flowers. I'm like, ooh, I want to move here. And I was talking to a little lady. I said, I'm retired. I'm a nurse. I'd love, because I do have a thing in my heart for the indigenous women, in terms of teaching them some stuff so they can be self-sufficient. So I was talking to this lady because I was trying to get some sandals from her little shop. And I said, I'd like to volunteer and work with the indigenous women. She said, oh, that would be great. We would love to have you. And then when I was going down the mountains, and would set in. Okay, Maggie, I see all these little individual homes, separated, and then you there by yourself. They know you're a woman. I don't have a mean dog, and I don't have a companion. And even if I did, that doesn't mean I'm going to be safe. and they're gonna know that you're here by yourself. I'm like, scratch that, no bueno. Now see, sometimes you have to reason with yourself, and that's why my podcast is like wisdom. Don't do things with, with emotions. Yes, it's beautiful. I'm telling you, I was in the moment, and I was with someone. She'll tell you. She's like, oh, you'll be bored. There's nothing to do. I'm like, oh, but could have a garden. I have a couple of dogs and cats, which I love. But what is the reality? The reality is like I could be a target. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So I really talked myself out of it. And I'm just putting a little bit more salt. I know that oil just, but I think I'm just going to sprinkle some salt on the fish itself. I don't want to put too much salt in the oil because I'm going to be using it. But anyway, it needs to sit here for a few minutes so that everything is infused. And then we're just going to plate it, right? So that's why when you're making a decision, even if it's to come to Panama or to go to Thailand or Mexico or whatever, just take your time and choose where you live very carefully. Hola, Denita, ¿cómo estás? Are you here or are you still in Mexico? I thought you were coming. You say in February, right? But anyway, so think very carefully about your decisions to go where to live. Don't just go by the one thing that you need the most, yes, or that you want the most. You may want something, but is it safe? Is it practical for you? When I went to Africa, that's why I had to do some soul searching also. I love being in the, in the motherland. But I looked at cultural, not divide, but ignorance pretty much. Because, you're not, even though you're a descendant of African, but you're not African. And they'll tell you that you're not, because I don't have all your culture and the way you do things, the way you think. We're different, right? And not necessarily, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to assimilate, right? But I realized at the age that I was and what I wanted to do, I think the effort to get there was going to be a bit much. And I said, look at healthcare infrastructure, the culture, and I'm like, as much as I love it here, but it's just not the right place. And I don't have to explain, I'm trying to kind of give you some insight as to how I think. But once I make the decision, you don't have to agree or disagree. This is the decision I'm making for me, and you do the same for you, because my situation is not your situation. And let's move into this life with care, right? Because no one's going to protect you but you. As a single woman, it's up to you. If somebody knocks on my door and I don't know who you are, if I open the door, that's on me, because I don't know you. Why should I open my door to let you into my home? And that's how people get their home invaded. They don't think. They just open themselves to everybody and anybody. I don't know how anybody would do that in this day and age. All right. I think my squash is done. I'm going to let it heal just for like 2 minutes. I told you we weren't going to be here long. So today it's going to be a short one, which is fine, because I need to make myself way to la chorera. I can't wait. So I have some more tuna left. So this one, I think we're going to sear it and maybe put it on a salad. That would be nice. We could do a salad next week. Okay. Let us see. Let's get our plate. So we are going to, very easy, we have our arugula. I was surprised that they have arugula here. Very easy to find. And they have lots of bok choy. I think I bought some bok choy. If I didn't have arugula, I could have used that. The bok choy is usually very fresh here. You see? Very nice. And they call it mostasa, like mustard green. Mostasa. Mostasa means mustard. Mustard. Well, I guess that's what they call mustard green. I don't know. But I'm not a kale kind of, I don't like kale at all. The only way I use kale is if I'm putting it in a soup or something. I don't like it raw. I see some people making kale chips, and I'm like, why would you take a beautiful vegetable and put, I don't know what they do with it. They put it in the oven and dry it, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm kind of a wise person, I have to say. I'm a firstborn, so I've always been kind of the, old soul, they used to call us. All right, so here's our fish. Ooh. Yum, yum. Look at this. And look at the color of that oil. Amazing. It's hard to taste it because if you take a piece of a steak, it's going to look a little weird. So I can't taste it. I can't taste it. So for those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, I stay in the city. And because to me, safety is paramount. And also being close to your medical facilities. It looks great, doesn't it? Thank you. Your medical facilities. So wherever you move to, make sure you have access to your doctors because you are an aging person and things are going to happen that you need your doctors close. Okay? That's just what I'm saying. All right, so let's do a bed. And we're also going to put a little bit of the arugula on top to decorate. I absolutely love arugula. I love the peppery taste. And remember what I said, when you plating, you always want to think about a little height. Okay? Yes. All right. So I'm going to get a spatula. This is a must in your kitchen. A must. The spatula. So now what I'm going to put first, we're going to put some of the squash. Yes, yes, yes. Mira, mira, mira. Ooh. Yes. Okay. Wow. It's kind of warm. I probably should put it in a fridge to cool it off a little bit, but you can do that yourself, all right? So here. I want the one that'll curve a little bit. Look at that. Yes. You see, when you're in the kitchen and you plating, you become an artist. I told you, I can't draw, I can't do anything. I can only be creative in the kitchen. Yes. And one more. Yeah. Whew. We're building a fort. And one more in the middle. So this replaces, if you were thinking about potatoes, you know, if I had a choice between potatoes and squash, squash is gonna win every time. I love squash. And it's so cheap and easy to cook. You don't need to do a whole lot with squash. And I make a good mash with it. You know, instead of mashed potatoes, you make mashed squash. Ooh, this is gonna be good for the decoration. Look at that. Yes. Let's leave it here for now. Because you know, fish, you don't want to overcook your fish. Right? Never. All right, here we go. Let me see if it looks better at the bottom. I think it's the same. Yep, it's the same. All right, here we go. The only thing with the poaching is that the meat becomes really white. So if you're looking for fish to look, you know, like pink, this is not the fish. And once you cook fish, it shouldn't be thick pink. Listen, I don't want to eat tuna any other way but poached. All right. So now I'm thinking, where do we put our tomatoes? We're still building that fort, right? I think that should do it. You know, you don't want to overdo anything. You know, chefs spend a lot of time putting little touches on their food. So now we're gonna put some acid. We're gonna put a little bit on there. And you know, somebody gives you this. Oops. How about that? There we go. Yep. So the other thing you might think about is the arugula is a little dry. So we want to make a quick little dressing. Let's see if I have any. Sometimes I have. All right, we can make a little bit of a vinaigrette really quick. Alright, so let's make a quick vinaigrette for the arugula because you don't want your food to be dry. So you could use olive oil, but I have all that herb oil here. I'm going to use a little bit of it. And then I have red wine vinegar. You always should have that in your kitchen. And salt and pepper. And a bit of oregano. So you can make your own Italian dressing. You don't need to go buy this stuff. Remember, if it's prepackaged, you don't want it. This is herb de Provence. No, I don't want that. I want some thyme. Dry thyme. No, that's romero. Tomillo. That's thyme. Dry thyme. And me, I always like to put a little bit of Dijon. Dijon mustard. ¿Dónde está? Little bit of Dijon. And you shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. So you can do this, make it this much, and then leave it in your fridge. And then use it and put it on your dressing. Not on your dressing, on your salad. Okay? Easy does it. So now it's fish. We need some slices of lemon or lime. today is easy. I told you it wasn't gonna last long. Okay? Sometimes I like to do slices, sometimes I like to do wedges. Wedges win today. Alrighty. So we are done. So if you were to go somewhere and someone presents you this as lunch, you say thank you very much. It's healthy, easy. Poached tuna is the star. Roasted squash, or you can slice some potatoes and do the same thing with potatoes. Or if you want to put it on grains, you can do that, you know, rice, quinoa, couscous, you can do that. I just didn't want any grain or any carbs today. And this is carbs, but not really bad. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, yes. What did you use for acid? Red wine vinegar. Red wine vinegar. But if you want it, you could squeeze some lime juice or lemon juice. You could use any acid, but not plain vinegar, which you could use. It's not a problem. You mix vinegar with olive oil, you're gonna have a good dressing. All of us have own gifts. Yes, ma'am. Yes. And I know mine. I cook, and I'm a good manager. I manage people well. But anything else, I can't sing. I can't draw. I'm not an athlete, even though I move for health, but it's because I have to. I don't really like to, but I have to. All right, so we're good today, sis. Thank you so much for watching me today. I hope the 1 hour, only 1 hour. Wow, this is a record. I've never been done in 1 hour, but Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm not as funny as her. Oh, you know, when they tell me that man died, this is another thing to keep in mind, guys. When you see someone who's always, be careful. Sometimes they're hiding so much pain. Because when that guy, what was his name again? Used to make everybody laugh. He was always joking. And then look what happened. I also knew someone in Florida he was a weatherman on some of the TV channel. He was always cracking jokes. He was the life of the party. Those are the people you need to watch out for. They usually, they're trying to make up for the hurt and the pain that they have in. So sometimes it's really hard. You don't know that they're really fighting demons. But the people who are always up, it's just super, no bueno. Thank you, Robin Williams. Yes. And that was a really, really, really sad thing because, you know, we all watched Mr. Fireman. He was just a funny guy, but he was fighting his own demons, right? No bueno, no bueno. I always feel sad that, you know, you feel guilty if you knew him to say, oh, why didn't I see it? But sometimes you can't. Don't give yourself get yourself in that survivor guilt mindset. You can't save everybody. You know, some people don't want to be saved. But that doesn't mean you ignore. Because if you are a wise person, a lot of time you have to be able, I guess it's a gift, to be able to see beyond the obvious. I can look in somebody's eye and I can see a lot. So I guess it's a skill, right? So even though the person may be acting up and trying to sound like everything is up and up, and you're like, sis, what's up? What's going on? But you know, most people won't want to share with you. That's the problem. And if I reach out and you close off, what can I do? What can I do? Right? So, but and that's why, you know, here with SWRA, we're trying to get a little deeper to try to get to know people better by spending time with them, so that if you feel something is amiss, you can act and say, sis, I'm here for you. What do you need? Talk to me. But that's all you can do. If the person does not reach out after you repeatedly try to, I don't know what else you could do. And you have to be brave enough and smart enough to say, I did what I could. And that's all you can do in any situation. As long as you do your best, then you're free of the guilt. And I refuse to put people's guilt on myself. I try to reach out, but you did not open up. You refuse to accept help. What else could I do? Let's not kind of pile other people's problems on us. We have enough to carry on our own. And you got to take care of yourself first, sis, before you take care of everybody else. You know, something that we didn't learn. We're learning as we get older. We're taking care of the mom and dad and the kids and the husband, and then you're neglecting yourself. Let's not do that. It's not healthy. All right? Okay, well, I guess I'm going to have lunch. And I'm going to head out. All right, guys. Have a beautiful Sunday. God loves you. I love you too. Bye. Au revoir.